This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube, and today I'm ending the year with a guest I've wanted for a very long time. He's kind of a hero of mine, Congressman Tim Burchett. He is a vocal advocate for increased transparency concerning unidentified aerial phenomena. He represents Tennessee's second district. He's the co-chair of the bipartisan UAP caucus. He supported whistleblowers and brought light to this often dark topic. And he is also on the House Committee of Oversight and Accountability. And he's wearing the jacket today, his famous jacket. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, brother. I was just out in the barn. I'd worked on some stuff out there, and my daughter hollered at me. She couldn't get a latch on her horse stable closed, so I had to run back out. I apologize.
No problem. And one thing you have in common with wrestling fans, for the fans of this channel, because it's also wrestling, you were the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, where
Yep,
Glenn Jacobs, is the mayor
yep.
now.
Glenn Jacobs, he's a dear friend of mine. He sent me a text today. Him and his wife Crystal and my wife are big buddies. So he's a great mayor. He's done a wonderful job.
Everybody wants to know because it's been quiet for the past several days now, I guess since before Christmas. Has the drone situation been resolved now, or are we just not hearing about it in the media anymore?
I don't think we're hearing about it in the media anymore. I think they've am I off the screen there? How about that? I don't know. Um,
No, I just take myself off when other
oh,
people
okay.
talk.
I got you. I got you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, it's still active. It's just what I said it would be. It's gonna, and I think that's part of the test that we're whoever's. I can talk about who I think's responsible for it, but I think what you've got is a situation where uh, that it's been in the news, been in the news, been in the news, and then, as I've stated, we want our pizzas in 30 minutes or less in this country, and that's about our dadgum attention span. And we'll move on to another shiny object somewhere, but the UFO UAP community is still talking about it as they should. I think the Chinese are using this, either they're directly responsible or indirectly. Most of the drones, well, all the drones that I know of have Chinese componentry. I believe they're able, just like as our cell phones and frankly, our jet planes, or some of our fighters, we were told that they possibly have the ability to turn them off mid-flight, even. And I believe that was even an article in one of the major news publications. So I think that they're testing us. They're seeing what we'll do, just like the Chinese balloon that flew over America. That they why didn't we shoot it down? They would just check to see what we would do. The Chinese balloon was pretty lame. I mean, their capabilities. It had some capabilities of finding stuff, but they got people on the ground. I mean, goodness sakes, they got it. Allegedly were uh, very close friends with a member of Congress, a Chinese spy was that was on the so-called intelligence committee. So I think, and they're in all of our schools. We know that our national colleges and universities and our institutes of higher learning and our research institutions. They were completely compromised. But I think what they're doing with the drones is they're just monitoring those and seeing our response. And because I think at some point you could see a terrorist group, say they had a submarine or some other apparatus off the coast of New York, put 50 of those in the air. They have dirty bombs or some biological entity or maybe some sort of atomic weaponry that they could put on us. And then our government now is just saying, oh, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. You people are imagining this. And they're not imagining it. There's something going on. And they're either contracting with the Chinese are just monitoring them indirectly, and you got a bunch of copycats. But on the vast majority, now the orbs, ORBS, I know my Southern dialect doesn't come across very well. I've seen those, and I'm a little baffled at those. I was in a secure setting one time, and a pilot briefed us on that, on some things that I would describe as an orb. I believe they were triangular in shape or rectangular, and and they just defy all reason. I had a meeting with a former NASA engineer, pretty high up in NASA, but not in NASA anymore, and he just is baffled. He was. Somebody said, "What about those UFOs?" And they looked at me, sort of smart, like, "Oh, we're going to put it on you, Burchett." And the guy just said flat out, said, "We don't know what those things are." He said they defy all of our learning and things we've been taught, defy all of every scientific bit of reasoning that we have. And he said, "Are they traveling through a black hole or a wormhole or something like that? We don't know." So there's a lot. I think there's a lot to be said for these things, and we need to watch them.
Do you think those orbs are part of this 2% that the government seems to be saying there's 2% that they really don't know what they are?
I do, and I've seen some. I've been privileged to see some things, videos and things like that of some of the stuff they don't know what is, and it's a mystery. I just sat there with a really just sort of a smirk on my face because everybody that's watching this are people that have said something to me, kind of denying that they exist and sort of making fun of me, mocking me a little bit. And now this is going on, and it's amazing the Congress members that have called me off the record, if you will, saying, "Hey, Burchett, man, what is going on with this stuff, man? Our people are a little freaked out." But New Jersey, I believe, is the hotbed for it, and I think that's for good reason. They were one of the most complacent groups during COVID that we've had. They shut everything down. They didn't question the government. They got in line. They got their shots and did all the things that we down in Tennessee did not do willingly, I guess I should say. So we've had some real trying times with this thing, and I tell you one thing I am worried about is there's so many of these up there and they're copycats and there's no regulation. Of course, I'm a libertarian, but at some point, if it flies into a jet engine and brings some 747 down that maybe I'm on traveling from here to Washington, that is troubling to me. So I think there's going to have to be further investigation into these things. But for the government to say that it's not going on is pathetic in itself.
Yeah, I heard Nancy Mace say the other day too that there was two distinct types of craft up there. She feels that the drone were government. Of course, there's the civilian ones, and then there's the orbs. But do you think that Admiral John Kirby and Alejandro Mayorkas are lying to the people, or do they really not know when they say it's nothing to worry about? Uh, this is just regular stuff going on in the skies.
Well, in their limited scope of things and their plausible deniability of everything else in the past, I don't have a lot of faith in them anyway. I don't know if they're lying or if they're just ignorant and stupid. And I say it's a combination of all those things. All they're doing is kicking the can. They want to get out of office as fast as they can before they get in a lawsuit. And they know that those things that could possibly be coming in the new Congress. There's a lot of things they didn't tell us the truth about, and a lot of those will come to light obviously after they're out of office, when their fellow employees who normally would feel retribution would come forward with this stuff. So I have a lot of concerns about that. I really do. I think, but our memories are so short. We're going to move on, and we may never know the answer to some of these things. It might just be, during the fifth, there'd be spells during the 50s where people would see UFOs just all of a sudden, and then boom, it'd be gone. There wouldn't be anything out there. There wouldn't be anything happening that we saw. Of course, technology has changed so much since then, but I sort of feel like this is one of those instances.
For sure. And I know you're friends with Lou Elizondo, who recently said in an interview if President Trump would put him in a position to take care of these drones, he could have them taken care of and figured out what the unknown ones are within 30 days. Could you see President Trump putting a guy like Elizondo in a position where he would be dealing with the UAP type events going on in the US?
100%. I believe that Trump will get to the bottom of it. I mean, he said he'd shoot him down, and no, and you ought not doubt him when he says those things. we're going to find out who's putting them up there and what they are pretty quick, one way or the other, with Trump's in the White House. That's why I suspect you won't see as many after Trump gets in shortly thereafter, because he will do that. And you've also got a military. You got to realize their morale is so low during this type of thing that you wouldn't have seen this happen during a Reagan or a lot, or even a George W. Bush. I would think this type of stuff they would have called on the military to take them out, because it creates a lot of insecurity and uncertainty, and that's some things they don't like. And but I think this current administration, honestly, is just so out of touch with what's going on that they are, and they just checked out. The president's not with it; he hasn't been with it for years, and the national media is anxious for Trump to get in there so they can be critical of him as much as possible. So I think there's a lot of moving parts there. But Lou would be the man. I would love to see Lou in that position, and um, I'll recommend that.
What do you think about President Biden's comments about this? It was a very hot topic, and he chooses to address it wearing a hat with his face blacked off and jet engine sounds in the background
Yeah,
rather than officially address it.
because I don't think he knows where he's at. I don't think he's aware of. I bet you if you'd ask him if he has talked about it, he probably wouldn't even know. I think he's in such a cognitive decline that we're in a really bad state. If something were to happen, only thing we got, I mean, as far as the country goes, going for us right now is the fact that Trump is going to be in the White House, in my opinion, because the bad guys don't want to react, because they know in a very short matter of time, when Trump's a cowboy. I mean, he's got so many unknowns. He says this stuff about Mexico and everybody laughs. He says it about Canada, the world laughs. But guess what? They're down at Mar-a-Lago trying to negotiate with him immediately, just like with the Panama Canal. Everybody's saying, "Well, he can't take the Panama Canal." Well, you better be careful. That he's got too much cowboy in him. He might just do something. And with these things, I think he will do something, and I think he's going to put it out. He said that he'd like to. The thing that we got to watch is the people that are around him will, if they're part of the sewer, the Washington sewer. I don't call it a swamp. It is a sewer. A sewer is man-made, and a swamp is something God made, which is a pretty cool little ecosystem. I've hunted and fished and frog gigged around swamps my whole life. And a sewer is just that. It just everything flows in and nothing flows out, and you have a putrid smell of anaerobic decomposition where there's no oxygen and no light. And that's what Washington D.C. is. And I think I hope that's getting ready to change. The transparency element is pretty straightforward. You have a government that is so arrogant that thinks that you can't handle it and that you don't deserve to know it, and that they've been put in place in power because they are something special, and they're none of those things. And I think Trump realizes that. And so hopefully, as the Kennedy files, I mean, the dadgum Kennedy files, there's nobody even alive that was even associated with that. All that's going to do is embarrass one of our alphabet agencies. And I think we all know which one. And I think you'll see that getting out shortly, especially with RFK taking a leadership role.
I've heard you say the president might address as far as the UAP phenomenon maybe within the first 3 to 5 months that he's in office. Do you still think that?
I do, because he's going to come to us and say, "What do we need? What would we like to see?" And I think that's really an untapped resource. I think the unknown about Trump is just that, the unknown. And I feel like it, he trusts the American public with this knowledge. I've had those, in deep throat, the leak for on Nixon, where they talk to you in a hallway or something, or in a parking garage. I had that, and I read a book. A mobster said they always approach you with somebody that you know, and I had that incident. I've had that incident with it was just a member of Congress, and they're like, "Burchett, man, do you really think America needs to know all this stuff?" And it was kind of they caught me right at a awkward spot, and I thought to myself, why in the world is this person telling me this, and why are they doing it now, and what are they afraid of? And it just goes back to my old thing about people being compromised. I think there's a lot of members of Congress that are compromised, either through sex or drugs or some corruption in their life that they don't want disclosed, and somebody in one of those federal agencies knows about it, and they use that and they blackmail them in some sort of way. And I think the power, could you imagine if we were to uncover this energy source and we could heat our homes and in the summer, I mean in the winter, excuse me, and cool our homes in the winter, and all these wars for oil would be worthless. The Pentagon would go out of business. Those war pimps need to go out of business. Um, all they do is we just reward them when they steal more money every year. We reward them with more money every year. This past year, we rewarded them with $9 billion new dollars after they failed the seventh audit. So the arrogance in this bunch in Washington is beyond belief, and I for one, I'm glad that somebody calls them out. I wish some other members would, because it kind of wears me out a little bit. But we'll see. Maybe Trump will give these people a little more courage in Congress.
I've heard some officials saying that the government is actually withholding the nature of reality from us as far as if we're being visited or not. I know you can't say much about whatever confidential briefings you had, but is that possible that could actually be being withheld from us?
100%. There's so much being withheld from us. I mean, they don't trust us. They tell us stuff we already know in a skiff, because if it's told you in the skiff, you're not allowed to say it anymore. You're not allowed to talk about it, even if you already knew about it. So I rarely go into the skiff anymore for any confidential briefings because of that reasoning. And federal government is not your friend. They're not here to help you any shape, form, or fashion. All they are there to do is perpetuate themselves in power, and they don't care about parties. Both parties are corrupted. Let's just be honest. And I get myself in trouble every time I say that. I talked about how, you got to pay to play in Congress. You have to raise so much money in Congress and kiss a lot of butt to move up in the ladder. And that's why I'll never move up the ladder, because I'm not good at raising money. The billionaires don't really care for me too much. And I don't, you know, I, I don't kiss enough butt. And I said that. And they issue you a bill to begin at Congress. They tell you how much you need to raise your dues, so to speak. The Democrats do it too. And you never rise up in the power unless you do those things. Only if you do those things. There's been members in the past in both parties that have written a dadgum personal check, and then the next term, guess what? They're chairman of a committee, and that's wrong. I mean, that is corrupt to its core. And I talk about that a lot. And they've come to me and said, "Man, Birchie, you can't be saying that stuff, man. It's really making leadership angry." And I said, "But it's the truth." And they go, "Well, I know it's the truth, but we just don't like you talking about it." And that's what you're up against in Congress. They pushed this UFO thing off on me because they thought, "Oh, Birchie, he doesn't. It's a joke, and people aren't going to take this thing serious." But guess what? Over half they're not reading the room. Over half the country believes there's something else going on, and they're not just backwoods rednecks. These are educated people. I have people all the time that have multi-level degrees, highly educated military people. They've either seen something or they believe it, and they want to know some answers. And you know, it's out there. Genie's out of the bottle, and they're not going to put this toothpaste back in the tube, because you've got an angry group of Americans that understand that we're corrupted to our core, and that somebody's going to get the answers. But I'm afraid what's going to it's got to happen at the executive level, because I keep waiting for somebody to come out of one of those labs with some secret information or some material or a photo or a video of something. And I just think that that's so compartmentalized, and they fear for their lives that that's not going to happen. It's got to happen with a gutsy president, and I pray it's Donald J. Trump. I really do.
As far as David Grush, at the congressional hearing that he was involved with, where you were questioning him, he was talking about going into a skiff at some point. I understand he still hasn't been in one.
That's
Could you give
correct.
us an update on what's going on with that? Is it still going to
Yeah,
happen?
I doubt it. I doubt it. We are blocked at every turn to get him in a skiff, and they don't. They tried to discredit him, and I was meeting with him right before that meeting, and I was like, we gotta get this whistleblower thing figured out a lot better, Grush. This thing ain't working right. And and sure enough, I mean, they came out with something now on him. They said he had PTSD. And I'll tell you something that they misunderstand. America loves our heroes. We love our war heroes. We love those people that sacrifice. And they tried to trash him and bring him down by doing that. And I think they totally miscalculated this country because they came out with some crazy, some what was it, some reporter, some little weekly newspaper or something came out with something on him. He had a mental issue. Well, half the country has a dadgum mental issue. And if you've been in a military situation, you probably got pretty good reason to have a mental issue. And they tried to destroy him with that. And I think it backfired on him. And I think it just showed how desperate and ruthless this bunch is and how much we need somebody in the White House to fix this thing and to release these files, because I think that'll just disclose everything. And that will also show us who our enemies really are. And I'm afraid our enemies are within on a lot of this stuff.
Grush was talking about these reverse engineering programs, and he was saying he was going to release some of the names of this to Congress in a skiff. Are we any closer to knowing the location of where these reverse engineering programs are taking place? And after all this time, I guess they could just change locations, probably.
Yeah, I remember somebody's told me, somebody used to be in leadership was trying to suck up to me, said, when we're going to get you a meeting at Area 51, Burchett. And I was like, I thought to myself, yeah, the moving vans have already left there, man. What you got to do is, you're going to call Congress in there and we're going to demand it. There's going to be a big fight, but they've already moved them out. They have already moved them. As soon as we mention it publicly, they've already moved it to another location. So yeah, I think we've got a big problem there. But I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of all that stuff Grush was talking about. I think they've, as soon as he said it, they'd already started moving stuff around. And and I've been told of locations and things of different places, Wright Patterson and in different areas. But what's it going to take for somebody like me? I get a court order, and I'm going to go down there with a Greyhound busload of reporters, and they're going to see us coming, and they've already moved everything, and we're going to look like fools, and then the press will further perpetuate that we're crazy and these things don't exist. So I think you've got to, again, it's frustrating as it is, but until a president decides this is important enough and stands up to these bullies and the intelligence industry and then the Pentagon, we're not going to get to anything. We will not get anything.
Here's a good question. Why
All
isn't
right.
Lockheed or any of these other government contracted research facilities like Boeing being subpoenaed to disclose what they're working on?
Well, because they're part of the reason is they're not government. We can't FOIA them. Um, you'd have to get a court of law to do that. Congress we can subpoena, I guess, anything, and they've lied to us. Why would they tell us the truth? Be me asking them. Well, they say, well, we didn't do that, and I say, oh, okay, well, that's all I got. So again, and let me tell you something else too. That's why they've compartmentalized this thing. They've sent this little area over here and this little area over here and this little area here, and nobody is talking to each other. And by design. And so there's one or two gatekeepers, maybe, if they're not dead. That's the problem. Some of the people who could put all the pieces together, maybe in the 50s or the 60s, have long gone. They've been taken care of some way or the other. And I just I think, and the federal government hands it off to these folks, so that way.
Oh, hopefully somebody didn't cut off. Oh, there you
Sorry,
are.
wait a minute. Hang
I
on one
guess you were
second.
talking about something they don't want you to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Sorry. No, what they hand it off to a private corporation and then they FOIA it, and then and then we can't FOIA it because it's in a private corporation.
As far as NASA, I understand they're actually a branch of the military as well. Uh, I don't know if you could hear me or not, or if your camera is dying. I'll wait and see if you come back. Somebody's yeah, maybe Tim got iced. He has a few more minutes, everyone watching. Hopefully he'll be back again sometime. We may have lost him, but Mr. Burchett, if you can hear us, we can't see or hear you.
Hold on. Okay. How about
Okay.
that? You got me now? Can
Yeah,
you
you're
see
just
me?
turning yourself sideways.
Yeah, I know it clicked off there. I'm getting somebody say, "Hey, I'm seeing you on Hannibal TV, man," and then they're like, "I was like, shut up, man. I'm trying to do this thing."
There's a lot of Tennessee viewers of this channel, so
Yeah, I know there are. I know there are, and they've contacted me, and I'm excited about it. But anyway, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you, since NASA is a branch of the military, we've heard Mike Gold's testimony at the last hearing. A lot of people weren't sure if he was being fully honest or not. What do you think about what NASA knows about UAPs?
NASA knows something. They've got something, but NASA. I mean, if I was NASA, I'd be really nervous of what Elon Musk is doing right now. I mean, he's smoking them. You know, he's landing missiles on landing pads, and all they're doing is looking for money. They're claiming they lost all their knowledge to go to the moon. They got to recreate it. I mean, I don't know. It's another government entity. They've got information. They've got footage, but they won't share it. And that they're doing is searching for dollars. They've read the opinion polls like you and I have, and they've seen some of the things. They think, wow, this is mainstream now. Let's get in on it. Typical government agency just looking for funding. I Again, we've got too many agencies out there that are doing too many different things. We ought to focus it on one. If it's Space Force, if it's whoever, it all needs to be focused on one. And they won't share. It's just like, your sheriff's department and your police department and the FBI. They're all competing. They all hate each other, and then justice sometimes slips through the cracks because of that. It's the same way with this. You've got every agency almost that has an entity that's studied these. The FBI, um, NSA, NASA, all of them. They studied it, but they won't. The nuclear regulatory agencies. They've had incidences, so they've studied it. They won't share it. It's so compartmentalized, and the stigma attached to it. But now they're all coming after the dollars, the research dollars, and that bothers me because they're not looking for a. It's like the Finding Bigfoot show. If they ever found Bigfoot, the TV show would be off the air. So they're going to keep studying this thing forever, and that it comes until the dollars drop, and they're not going to. It'll be another Project Blue Buck. It'll be another Discovery notebook on a shelf somewhere drawing dust.
Last question here. You've been in a lot of confidential hearings, which may or may not have told you anything relevant. Lou Elizondo has spoken that there could be some type of imminent threat, and that's one of the reasons why he's coming out about this, because he feels there should be a lot of minds on this, scientific minds. Do you think that there is any type of danger looming with this, or as you say, this has been going on a long time? Is it just going to continue being like this, and we have nothing to worry about?
Well, I've stated if they have the capabilities of traveling light years, I think we are just a speck of dust, and I just don't. I don't fear it. I don't fear it. I think they've been there since the beginning of time when God created the heavens and the earth. I think He created this thing, and whatever it is, Ezekiel saw the wheel. If you read the first chapter of Ezekiel, it describes pretty much a UFO, and kind of a whacked out way, but it's because they didn't have the highest technology they had back then was a wheel. So they described it as a wheel within a wheel. And so I don't fear it. I really don't. I'm not afraid of it. I just wish they would turn it loose and let us decide that.
Well, hopefully President Trump does turn it loose once he gets into power, and hopefully nothing horrible happens. The countdown is on, I guess.
It is.
Uh,
It's on, brother.
it seems like it's taking forever because of the current administration.
Yeah, well, they've all been that way. Every one of them. They all just Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter actually saw a UFO. Bill Clinton joked about it, in one of his speeches, and it's just, I'm over it. I'm over people uh, making us out to be fools. The Bible talks about professing yourself to be wise, you became a fool. And I think a lot of these people in the intelligence agencies are just that. But they keep it from us because we keep electing these same people that don't demand it. And I would demand total transparency. You're talking to your congressman and say, I want total transparency in the UAP issue. I'm tired of the runaround because a lot of congressmen are in on it. And not because they know what's going on. They're just in on it because the intelligence industry or whoever, or the military industrial complex that give filters them a lot of money in their campaigns. All legal, of course, or they have family members that work for these groups. All legal, of course, but they're worried about stopping that paycheck. So I would hope that America would start putting the pressure on these people.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Where can people follow you to get the latest updates on
Yeah.
everything to do with your work in Congress?
Well, I've got an official. I've got a Twitter account. X at Tim Burchett is the cool one. It's the one that everybody follows. I just passed 200,000 viewers, which I've had to fight my way to get that far. I don't see how all these people get these million viewers overnight. I've never been that fortunate. But yeah, at X, and I tell things as I come off the house floor, and they're not filtered. As you can tell, I'm not too polished, and I let America know what the heck's going on. And I'd love to be able to follow me there. Thank you, brother. And it's been a real pleasure to be on with you, man. A lot of people follow. You've got a huge following, and I'll tell Glenn Jacobs I talked to you and that he needs to get on your podcast.
Very good. And we hope to have you back on again one day whenever you have more to talk about. And thank you very much, sir. I'll let you close this off with whatever you want to tell the fans.
Yeah, I just appreciate everybody pushing forward for this thing. I don't want you to hide in the shadows on this issue. It's a real issue. America's spending tens of millions of dollars and telling us these things don't exist. Well, if they don't exist, then dadgummit, show us all the redacted reports and all the footage and everything else without your silly commentary. You've paid for it. You deserve it, and hopefully we'll have some freedom in this upcoming 4 years.